without further ado, this is Bryson Jones, the high-def cowboy.
There's a great box called the Cache. Some of you guys have seen that. And what it does is it allows you to actually take a tape and virtualizes that. So there's a virtual volume that you copy files to, and it writes it onto a digital tape. And it's a pretty powerful thing. It's a beautiful idea and very elegant. And I had griped at one of the guys from the company long enough about a previous product that he had been associated with that we became friends. And as often, I guess I make friends from griping at people. But he instant messaged me one day and said, yo, you got to check this out. And he showed me this thing, the Cache. And I was like, wow, this is pretty powerful. You should meet these crazy, awesome British guys that I know who wrote this thing called CatDV, because it would be really slick if CatDV could gather things up and send them to the Cache. And then we introduced those guys, and we actually one day got a beta shipped over. No one actually requested the feature, just a beta showed up. And now we have this thing where we can go in and archive media files. I don't have a real cache, so it's going to say it knows I don't have a tape. But I've given it a tape name, which is, if you ever dealt with LTO, it's always some silly name that's on the RFID chip. And it knows where that thing lives. And I'm going to include my CatDV metadata. And I just click archive. I could also purge the high res, if you notice. I don't want to do that in this case. I'm just going to make, what's not a true archive. It's going to be a backup. It's going to move those files over to that V-tape where the cache would then write them to tape. It tells me what I did. And if you look over here in the archive status, it says I copied to that tape on this date at this time, and it's currently backed up on the V-tape. And if I need to go pull that off the shelf, I can map that field to anywhere in my view. And that, for anyone who's ever dealt with a tape backup system, it's a much more elegant solution. Same thing. Want to bring it back, restore it, or purge the media. As a lot of you in this room may or may not know, the first law of digital data is if data does not exist in two places, it does not exist. And that's a big one, and that's about to become way more critical. So that's a little something I show to not get too caught up on, but you get the idea that it gives you a way to track where things are going. One last thing on this. We've done searching, we've looked at this, and this is probably the least understood and the most powerful part of the whole thing. And it's a program called Worker. And the big magic for any of these systems that we deal with, the big magic of any of these systems is automations and being able to do things in an automated fashion. And what the Worker does is it gives you ability to do and I usually cuss at this point. It gives you the ability to do watch folders. And it's like, yeah, watch folders, whatever. Compressor does that. I got that for free. I can buy a $20 piece of shareware that does watch folders. But the interesting thing about Worker is that Worker speaks to the CatDV server. So what happens is Worker can do things, and it can tell the server that it did them. And it can email you, and it can take server data and email that data to you about the job and tell you that it did it. Not only that, it can update the status. So when it moves a file, the file gets updated in the database. It knows that it was moved. So part about your verification, we have a MySQL database running under all of this, and it is all completely run. If you notice some things are running right now, I have some demo stuff here running right now. To give you an idea of some of the things that we can do with Worker, and it's very, very deep as well, we can import XML with a file. And there's something I'll show you here in a minute where we're doing that. You can also export XML to go out. For instance, for VAS, we're setting up translations so that they'll have a project that's ready to go out. And iTunes says, we want the title first, and then we want the studio, and then we want copyright. And they may not want to keep their data that way. We'll, through an XML translation, style an XML spreadsheet or sheet that will actually style sheet that will drop right into iTunes. So when they hit export, the Worker will take that file, export a copy to go to iTunes or VOD or whoever, grab the pertinent metadata that we requested, style it for the person on the other end so it imports into their system, and then drop it onto their FTP where they pull it into their system. A nice little Rube Goldberg machine, and that's the idea. When some really large distribution companies have seen this, actually, a representative of one of them is here. What they realized was that they're getting all these files with no metadata. So they're interested in standardizing on CatDV because you can buy the client for a few $100s. So you just sell somebody the client and say, hey, I want you to send me a catalog with it. Even if you can't understand XML, I can send you a catalog and a template, and you can send me data that I can use. Obviously, down the road, we want people to actually upload to us with that data and that XML. Hopefully, they'll get CatDV on their end so that you can hand off and it flows through. Also, though, we have people who use Final Cut Server. That's fine. Final Cut Server can generate XML, which we can read. Or, even more powerful, we can generate XML that Final Cut Server can read. So all that bulk tagging you saw, where we work really fast, all those guys who have web-based systems and server-based systems, we can hand off the data. You can jump in CatDV, quickly tag all that metadata, and then export that out into any other database system. And that becomes really powerful because, hey, sometimes you have something already in place that you want to use. Maybe you've built a really great database that you want to use in your shop. That's fine. We can give you a beautiful front end to that and then automate the imports into it. It's pretty slick. This little guy that just ran is actually sort of a weird, fun thing. I don't know. Let me take a look and see if this thing came in. I got called to set up a system for casting for a reality show. And all the movies, by the way, I think are me and maybe my lovely girlfriend, Anna Lee. We'll see here in a moment. Let's go take a look at the server and see. So what that script just did is, let me pop into here on the web. What we did is that Wild Love, that's my reality show, y'all. Don't steal that. Wild Love. So we want people to be on Wild Love, but we don't want them to send us VHS tapes anymore because we're over it. And everybody's got a webcam or a little flip cam or whatever. So the idea was that the casting would be done online. And if you see here, they enter the person. By the way, this is a big deal for any of you guys who deal with like paper and reports and emails and stuff. The person on the other end puts their name in, the city, this is just BS metadata, what sex they are, the height, hair color, answer to a question, and then they upload a video. A little bit of web magic that we wrote called the Roundup actually takes that and then drops that into their CatDV server. So if we go in here to the casting inbox, we see that we have some clips from that guy right there, which this is such an awesome shot. I got to bring that up. And if you notice, there you go. There we are. That guy's name is Zach Bresnick. He's from Seattle. He's 24. He's male. He's 5'10". His hair's brown. He digs girls. And if you notice, we've actually renamed his file, which I'll bet you anything was named like Untitled 1 or DSC 123457, and we gave it his first and last name, and then we dropped it into our system. From here, we can do any number of things. So you see that you go, wow, I could use that for ad submission if I was on like a cable station, like a small cable station. Again, this is not a super expensive thing. So the worker allows us to, one, pass off the work to somebody else. We can take their XML that they've already typed up and set up, or we can save someone some work on the other end. We can also transcode. We can make proxy. We can do all sorts of amazing things. And it's all aware, so we can set a producer-proof pull-down that says, send to so-and-so. And so-and-so gets the file, and so-and-so gets an email, and nobody writes it, nobody touches it. It's a big deal. Again, get your assistants back to helping the editors and assisting instead of doing busy work. The last piece of the whole puzzle, and we'll get on through here, is what's called the HTML publisher and the web client. So now I'll just take you through the process so you can see it actually from kind of a basic idea of what's going on. I launch the client. When the client pops up, I'm going to log into the server. Again, everything from the actual layout of the app to your permissions for all the clips and all the metadata you see is completely manageable in the server app. So we're going to log on to the server. I'm going to log in as administrator, which you should never do. Going to VS Entertainment, we're going to take a look at the web HTML publisher. So what we're doing here is this, is that because we have a system that's based on web standards, it's MySQL, and it's running in Java, we have some pretty powerful ties to the web. So this is not really well understood because a lot of people don't integrate this well, but what we have in this system is we actually have a thing called the HTML publisher. And what we can do is we can take this web test, for instance, we can take a CatDV catalog and set up, based on metadata, we can share this out to the web. So right now, if we look at these guys, we can see that over here, the web category is surf, and we can see that these two are not shared out to the web, and these two are. So if we jump onto our web browser real quickly and go look at the web server in this situation, we can go here and look at the surf category, and we see that there's two clips. Again, this is all just for demo purposes. It's not styled. It's not pretty. And this was set up so that then we could go in here and take a look at Donovan Alive in Tahiti, and then we have a little gallery. We have a YouTube link. Instead of using the proxy, this company chose to use their YouTube links, and you can play that out. And you have, metadata changes. So if we go back over here, for instance, and take a look, if I went down here and took Disposable Hero, I can share that to the web right here. I hit save on my server, and on the web, my client sees a new clip ready to rock. done in there. If I want to go in, for instance, on this Donovan clip and go in here and go, you know, I actually want to go in here right now and change the summary. This whole Surf Warrior thing, I don't like it. I can go in here, take that, again, save the metadata on this guy. There we go. And when I refresh the view, I don't like it. So all the metadata, I don't have to program a web page. I don't have to program a website. I track my metadata where my metadata is tracked in the main server, and then I can selectively share things out to the web. So you get the idea that for approvals, for a whole lot of things, it's a pretty powerful thing.
Is it a separate proxy for that?
It can be, and this is something that's very powerful actually in this, is that you can have the proxy. In this case, CatDV's can manage 3 different versions. If you have a wide open server and a place to put it, you can just start a proxy, or you can put your proxy up on a CDN and you have a 3rd copy. High-res, in-house proxy, web proxy, which leads us to an interesting piece of business. What if, this thing's really great, but what if I could just go in and get all the benefits of CatDV right here? Let's log in. This is the CatDV web client. And this, for the big shops, the big boys with the big infrastructure who have worldwide operations, and I want producers in Mumbai to be able to log in and look at clips and change metadata, this is what they use. You pop in here, and if you have the server obviously strong enough to serve it to the web or a CDN. I'm working right now with a couple different CDNs, make sure the integration is really nice and tight, but you can see that we can play this, we can mark ins and outs, we can do all sorts of beautiful stuff in this web client. We can make edits to the metadata in here, check in, and save those. And this, if you notice over here, you see all these catalogs I had? Reality, there's my celebrity rehab stuff. Again, that stuff's all offline. Everything we've looked at, I can go through here. This is a big one, so it's going to take a second. Take a like that. That's 1,000 clips. We'll see. I actually never loaded 1,000 clips on the web client. We'll see what happens. But basically the idea is that, and this is really powerful, this was developed for a large record label that has a problem with, they have assets spread all over the world. So their big project that they had to do was they had to get every music video onto the web, pronto. So the problem was is that the music videos were managed by all of the labels, which might be in London, they might be in Hong Kong. So what they set up was, and I'll give you a quick walkthrough just so you can see how somebody would use CatDV. These guys set up an FTP collection point. And they have a form that you fill out. You fill out the form, and the XML and the file come into the main shop in New York. In New York, it's in the inbox. The guy comes in the morning. He assigns the clips to Bob and Bruce and Annie and Sheila and the engineers. Then they move those clips automatically or moved by the workers off to those engineers, their inbox. Some cases, it moves them to a certain point on the SAN. Some cases, it leaves them, and they edit in place. They work with that. When the guy's ready to go, he goes, you know what, I've got all the metadata done, I've got all the QC done, I've marked up some things I want the person to see. They set it as marked for approval. Servers watching, workers watching the server, server says, oh, marked for approval. The worker takes that, sends an email to the person in Hong Kong and says, you've got something to approve in your approval catalog. They log in through the web browser, they see their things to approve, they watch it, they look at the marks, whatever they want to do, they either reject or approve or make notes. At that point, they say they're done. That notifies the guy in New York. The guy in New York looks at it, sends it to the traffic person. Traffic person does a final QC and says, you know what? Send it to Vivo or YouTube or whoever's getting it. Hit the button, and it all goes off into the data center chain. That's the idea behind the app, is that it's a set of tools to solve those problems. Previous to this, that would have been a lot of programming, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so it gives you an idea end to end. I want to kind of give you guys a big overview. There's a lot of things you saw. We're going to break out now for a few questions and get through it. And if you have something that's a little bit too deep, you can contact Dave or Curtis or Sandy, some of the guys from Melrose Mac, and we can set up like a breakout session. And also we do remote demos so people who need the shop take a look. But, you know, I'm Bryson Jones. Thank you guys for listening to me. It's been a lot of fun. Whew. That's it.